yum is characterised by its hot and sour flavours, and that means it needs a lot of lime and a lot of chilies. Now, when I was in Thailand recently, I had a very, very hot tom yum. So when I'm making it at home, I cut back on the chilies. Usually there's a few of these little hot ones in there, but I'm only going to be adding one. Also, in a tom yum, you need lemongrass and galangal. Now, I love galangal. You can get it from a lot of supermarkets these days. If you can't, you'll get it at good Asian grocers. It smells beautiful and it tastes very similar to ginger and turmeric. If you can't get hold of galangal, you can still do this soup, of course. You can just use some ginger. And just by using a spoon like this, we're just taking off that really rough skin. Using a spoon's the best way to do it, so we're not wasting any of the galangal there. We're just taking off that skin in the nooks and crannies where it's really difficult to get around. So we want about 1 knob of galangal, and we're going to start with a paste. Over here I've got some stock on, some really beautiful homemade chicken stock, so about 1.5 litres, and we're bringing that to the boil. I'm going to roughly chop this galangal just into some rough pieces. It doesn't have to be perfect because I'm going to place it into my mini chopper. You can do it in the mortar and pestle too, but this just speeds up the whole process. Our chilies, so 2 long green chilies. These aren't as fiery as the little one, so I'm going to add 2 with all of the membrane inside it and the seeds, along with one of the really hot ones, and some lime zest. In Thailand, they would use kaffir lime leaves, but I think lime zest does a fantastic job for this, making sure that we get as much of it as possible. We'll use 2 limes for this. Give them a really good wash before you start using them too, because if they're sprayed or they've been transported, you don't want any of that in it because we are using quite a lot of lime here. Wonderful. Let's scoop all that up. And that goes in. We need some shallots, just French shallots or purple shallots, about 2, and we'll cut them into quarters. And that goes in with 2 cloves of garlic. The last thing in this is some coriander. Now, we'll use these beautiful, delicate leaves at the end of the soup, but these stalks and roots have loads of flavour. Again, you want to give them a really good wash because they carry a lot of dirt. Cut them in half and then they can go in. We'll also add a touch of fish sauce. It's very strong, so we just need about a tablespoon in there. And we need some sweetness, so I'll add some brown sugar. You can also use palm sugar. So place the lid on, click it in place, and let's blitz it until a paste is formed. Perfect, so that has completely pulverised into a beautiful aromatic paste. That smells so good. When fresh is always best, and this is going to really make this soup into something quite special. Now, this stock is simmering gently, so we can place all of this paste straight into the soup, and that's going to flavour the soup. So I'm just going to allow this to gently simmer for about 10 minutes. Then I'm going to strain it and we'll finish it off with a little bit of seafood, some noodles and some fresh veggies. This smells divine, and what I've done is just left that lemongrass to the end, and I've just bruised it and I've added it to that stock so we get a really intense lemongrass flavour. Now, that's been about 10 minutes, so let's strain that. It's okay if there's small little speckles from that paste. It's not a big deal, but we don't want the chunks of lemongrass, obviously. So let's move that to the side. And we'll just try to get as much out as possible, and we'll place it back on the heat. Now, this is where you can add some seafood. I like the combination of snapper and prawns, and they cook roughly at the same time. So there's big chunks of snapper here. We're going to add them. They're going to slowly poach within a few moments, and I'll add the veggies just after this. So we'll give the seafood a head start. I'm just going to add a few prawns to this. We'll make it all about that fish. And for our veggies, some shiitake mushrooms, fresh shiitake mushrooms here, just slicing them and we're going to poach them with the seafood. Some beans, let's just cut them in half so we can still see them in the soup. And some corn, baby corn. These are so sweet. I'm going to cut them in half. You want everything to sort of cook around the same time, or start an order. The fish is going to take a little bit longer, so they go in first. Corn, I still want crunch in them, so they only take 30 seconds just to almost blanch it in there. And then the bok choy, well, that doesn't take long at all, so they go right at the end. I even just place the base of the bok choy in there and just leave the tops, the leaves, to just steam lightly, so again, they don't overcook. And some spring onions, which is going to be the garnish. We'll just cut them on an angle, and that's for the top. Now, we'll get our big bowl here. We're going to add some noodles. So I've just blanched these. Our lime, we'll get that ready to go. Now, you can add these tomatoes to the soup if you want to soften them a little bit, but I want them to hold their shape, their freshness also, and they'll cook when that hot broth is poured over the top of it. And last but not least, we need some soy sauce. So we haven't seasoned it with a lot of sauce apart from the fish sauce there. So a good amount of soy sauce for seasoning. Give that a stir. You can see as soon as these prawns, see these prawns here, they've started to change colour and they're firming up a bit, curling over. We'll get the delicate pieces of fish. Look at that fish, that's cooked just to perfection. I'm going to add some lime now. Perfect amount of seasoning there. It's hot, but it's bearable for me. And if you want it to be even hotter, by all means, add as many chilies as you like. Good squeeze of lime juice. And now let's serve this up. I'll grab a big spoon here. We want to get those pieces of fish, trying not to break them up for presentation purposes. Place them on our noodles there. Our prawns. And try to get as much of all those yummy veggies there, a bit of corn. And then it's all about that fragrant broth. I'm just going to pour some of that straight over the noodles. That is a spectacular soup, a taste of Thailand. Make your own paste at home. That paste has got loads of flavour in it, and it'll transform your soup every single time you make tom yum soup.